Alright, YouTube, Hillary Clinton decided to put another nail into the coffin of her own campaign by announcing she wants a 65% estate tax on large estate holdings. Now, for those of you who are, left-leaning, you probably say, oh, well, that's not nearly enough. They should be taxing these rich motherfuckers at 99% when they die so we don't get an oligarchy. That's not the problem here. The problem is that those rich oligarchs and corporate heads and so forth, they will take advantage of loopholes in the legal system because they can hire the attorneys necessary to do so, and they won't pay 65%. But you know who will? Farmers and small business owners. Can you say Clinton just destroyed her chance of winning Iowa? Oh, of course she did. She's going to lose handily. She'll probably lose by double digits. Here in Vermont, this might affect her support too. Look at all the small farms and small businesses we do have that we've managed to garner despite our massive state taxes, our massive property taxes, and everything else. Those will all go bye-bye under such an estate tax plan. You're going to tell me that small businesses and farmers that are already adversely affected by our business tax code because multinational predator corporations pay nothing because they use loopholes, because they can pay a few $1,000,000 for a team of lawyers and accountants to write everything off and say, oh yeah, our actual income was so low you shouldn't even tax us, after they take all sorts of rebates and kickbacks from donating to political causes. Meanwhile, the mom and pop shop is gone, the Farmer John has gone out of business, and that little grocery store owned by your friendly little old granny is also gone, or at least in hazard of going bankrupt because of tax rates anyway, and you want to say, oh, we're going to take 65% of your holdings when you die as well, so your heirs basically get nothing. This is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. Why shouldn't a person be able to leave a reasonable amount to their progeny? We're not talking about people who are billionaires who are going to be impacted by this tax. This will impact exactly 0 billionaires. When Scott Adams says, oh, Mark Cuban's going to be applauding for someone that wants to take 65% of his wealth when he dies, he wouldn't have to do that. He'll put it all in a trust. He'll have a bunch of lawyers figure out how he can divvy things up so that he doesn't actually have to pay any estate tax at all, because that's what the super wealthy are capable of doing. It's exactly like the corporate tax system. Small business, Farmer John, little grocery store, they can't take advantage of all the corporate tax loopholes. Therefore, they pay the highest corporate tax rate. That's why they're not doing well. Corporation, an actual corporation, the kind that was meant to be targeted by such taxes in the first place to spread wealth back to the lower class, because multinational corporations typically pay minimum wage at best whenever they can possibly get away with doing so, because they don't care if they get the best and brightest, they just care about distributing cheap crap from China. They don't pay that rate. They pay a far lower rate, and sometimes they pay very little or nothing at all. And so the same would happen here. This would be riddled with problems. It wouldn't actually put money back into the system. If you're a leftist and you're saying, well, fuck the rich aren't the ones that are going to be impacted by this. Some farmer, he owns 100 acres of land. On paper, he's really wealthy. He's got a shit ton of land. He's got all these tractors. He's got this big barn. He's rich. In reality, he's not actually rich. In reality, that small-time farmer here in Vermont or out in Iowa or something, on paper, he's very wealthy. But he's struggling just to get his kid diapers when they're born, honestly, as far as things actually go, because he ends up having to take out constant loans just to seed his land and then hopes that the crops are good. That's all he does. He pulls in a median income at most, despite having all of that land. The small business owner, yeah, on paper, that brick and mortar store, maybe it's evaluated as being worth a couple $1,000,000. Maybe when it was built, it was worth next to nothing. Cost $10,000 to erect the whole structure and buy the land to do it on because of inflation, because of all the economic problems that we've got. But now you evaluate it and say, oh, well, this person must be rich. They get like a $1.5 million brick and mortar business. Look at they've got this company vehicle and 17 employees. They're not actually rich. If they're lucky, they're pulling in a low six-figure salary as the head of that business. They're probably not even pulling that in. They're probably getting not that much higher than median income. You're telling me you want to basically liquidate that holding when they die so you can sell it to some corporation properly. You're going to put them into bankruptcy. The heirs get almost nothing. And then you've just destroyed another small business. This would be an unmitigated disaster for any community that still has small businesses in it. Complete disaster. Regional chains, they would suffer too. It's not just, the mom and pop store. It'd be the small regional chains too. You'd have something like here we'd have Tops. It's just operating in New England. They've got, I think, a couple dozen stores throughout New England. Oh man, when the person heading it dies, they'd be screwed. They don't have the kind of money necessarily to do the corporate game to its fullest extent. Okay, maybe they bump it down to the 35% estate tax rate. Okay, so they're going to have to sell a third of their stores when the heirs inherit it to pay off that amount of money. Can you say job loss? This would probably cripple millions of jobs around this country. I don't think people have fully thought this through. It's not going to punish the super wealthy. It's not going to punish the vulture capitalists or the corporatist class or the hedge fund managers. It's not going to affect them at all. They don't even give a fuck. It's not going to affect them. It's going to affect the small business owner. It's going to affect the farmer. It's going to affect, the working white collar, the doctors and professors and people like that, the academia. All those so-called liberal professors, they're just they're not even really leftists, they're just Democratic partisans, total difference. It's going to destroy them too. I can't imagine, I don't see anybody that benefits. The poor aren't actually going to get that much more money out of such a taxing system because those that actually have 90% of those holdings can shelter those holdings. So they're multinational corporate heads and hedge fund managers. They get the money and the lawyers to do that. But the small businesses and farms, the businesses we should be taking pressure off of them, making them grow more, getting an actual free market going so that you can have a small farm, you can have a brick and mortar single business or a regional chain. You don't have to go just to Walmart or Home Depot or one of these big box stores. Those are the people that are going to get hammered by this. I don't know what she's thinking. People are pointing out, well, it's not primarily the multinational corporations that are going to be paying that estate tax rate. The head of Walmart dies and all of a sudden, they have to sell 100 stores. And it's not going to happen. Nothing will happen to them. Absolutely fucking nothing. They'd have $100 billion. You're not going to see a penny of that get taxed. Not a single penny is going to enter back into the system. It won't affect the oligarchic heads of these corporations that clearly are seen as some sort of mortal enemy by most of the leftists in this country. I say that loosely because most of Clinton's fans aren't leftists. They're partisan Democrats. They're actually right-leaning on fiscal issues. They don't want really increased taxes. They want maybe 0.5% higher taxes. They think that's a revolutionary idea. This would kill the United States economy. It quite literally. It's not like the corporate tax rate. Yeah, there's some small businesses and entrepreneurs that still manage to struggle their way through it and maybe add a job every once in a while. It's just hard for them to do that. This would completely decimate them. There wouldn't be a small farm left in the whole United States. They wouldn't exist anymore. You'd have corporate factory farms, and that's it. And even they might have problems if they're sort of a syndicalist system. Oh, we're a collective of larger farmers. Well, they're all going to get screwed too. So I guess we're not going to be growing much corn anymore either. That's about all. Peace out.